Hello team! I hope you're fine. I already apologize for my English accent. I'm doing all my best. For my introduction, I'm Stach. Welcome to this YouTube channel on which we realize the fundamental analysis about crypto projects. But not only that, I'm talking as well about investment strategies. But for today, I've got a small present for you. Before we start, let's take a quick flashback to one of my first videos I published. You will see what I was saying is quite funny. Parce qu'en fait, le but de cette chaîne, et je vais pas vous mentir les amis, que ce soit directement les développeurs de technologies qui nous expliquent eux-mêmes les technologies qu'ils développent.
Hey, je vous avais dit quoi?
2 weeks ago, I realized the fundamental analysis about the Dynex project and I went as far as possible. And I tried to explain everything for you on the best way. And what happened? 1 week after my publishing, I have been contacted by Damien and Y3TI, two developers of the Dynex project. And the day after that, we were recording the following interview. That's what I want to share with you today. You can also find this video in French translations just for my French community who doesn't want to spend the time reading the subtitles. I wish you a good time and let's discover the secrets of this project. Is there any problem if I record this
No, you're more than welcome to record it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. My community will love it. I'm sure about that. So, Mr. Y3TI,
Yes.
so you are the manager of the development and the ecosystem of Dynex and security
Yep.
for a long time, I guess.
Well, officially I joined the team 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
Unofficially, I've been lending a hand where I can. I flew off to America to do some TV appearances over in America for Bloomberg and Fox Business, which was probably the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done. Being in front of all of those cameras and lights, and yeah, it was a good experience though. A very good experience.
What a project. That's totally
Insane.
it blew my mind. Ready.
Yeah.
That was very hard to explain.
Dynex is something like I got into it because I saw the potential of what it could be down the road. And we're slowly getting there. Like you can see over the last sort of 6 to 8 months, the dev team has just been tirelessly working at pushing out update after update, and we're slowly getting it to where we want it to be, but there's still more to come yet, which is probably the craziest thing to say, right? It's already ridiculously efficient, ridiculously fast at what it does, and there's still more to come from it. So for me, getting into next gen technology was the thing that always interests me, always has done. And getting the chance to play around with this sort of technology is not every day I get the opportunity to do that. So when they offered me a chance to beta test, I took that very seriously, gave them good feedback, and we moved it on from there. And now it's that they offered me a position because they value my help and input. So it's been a good and crazy 6 months, to say the least.
Yeah, you were talking about technologies, and I want to talk about Q-score.
Sure.
My favorite subject.
140 for RTM, 15,000 for Dynex.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite funny when you look at it, like, because it looks ridiculous, right? Like you see everyone else's, and then there's Dynex is just like off the chart. And to be fair, that chart, that number is where it stopped. We could have gone further. If the system and the Q score benchmark actually allowed it to go longer, we could have potentially been even higher up on the score list. That's the bit that's crazy to even think about. But our Q score is so high because of the way that the technology interacts. So instead of just having one centralized piece of infrastructure, now you're talking, you know, everywhere in the world that we've got connections to can be brought on to do a problem or a job, and be able to actually hand that back in an efficient way is what makes Dynex so appealing to a lot of places. A couple of the people that are testing it now, for example, were a bit like you, looked at the Q score, were blown away by it, couldn't understand how ours was so massively further on. But you just got no limitations compared to quantum-based computers. Whereas, so a quantum-based computer, right, will need so much hardware and expertise to run. You got to then chill it down to negative 200 something just to keep it in an optimal path and running. That's where Dynex is the benefit. You've got none of that. There is no having to super chill a system, because the system is everywhere, right? It's everywhere. We've got a GPU. So realistically, we can push the boundaries, and we've actually been trying to work with the people that did the Q score. I've reached out to them with the intention of seeing if we can actually refine their benchmarking tools, because we ideally would love some benchmarking tools to run against competitors, right? And we can't find those at the moment. So we're going to try and help push those benchmarks further forward to allow us to get a proper true Q score. It'll be amazing to see what it ends up being, the number.
But I had a question.
Yeah.
On 24th of January 2024, IBM, even if IBM did create the IBM Quantum, they have published a warning about quantic informatics, because it could be very dangerous for cybersecurity, or, for example, terrorism or whatever. Does Dynex can choose their customers who use the technology?
So all customers that register for the marketplace are KYC'd. We have to, part of the European rules and regulations around crypto as well as AI. It's not just one side of the equation. We got, you know, regulation from it's both. Both require KYC, as well as anyone doing over $600 worth of AI or compute have to actually be fully KYC. So instead of waiting till somebody got to that $600 mark, we just KYC'd everyone, because realistically it gives us the security from our side. We've got all the customer data, you know, to who it belongs to. But equally so, we understand that, you know, security is paramount, right? That with that much compute available to us, you have a certain level of responsibility to make sure that, you know, it's not used in a bad way. So we comply with all regulations. We've just set up our ethics committee. Their presentation is, I believe, very soon. They'll be doing a proper presentation showing who all the ethics committee members are, which is super, super helpful, because with the ethics committee plus what we've run at Dynex, we believe that we've got most angles covered. Now, does that mean some crazy idea might not come out of left field and we miss that one? No, absolutely not. It might happen, but that's where, you know, my expertise in like IT security comes in, because we're training it just like it is a normal IT infrastructure. Just the difference is it's a lot larger than most. So we've got security in place to make sure that certain digital fingerprints, right? So when I was beta testing, the one thing that we wanted to make sure of, we got digital fingerprints of all different types. So if you try and crack, say, a password, that leaves a digital fingerprint, a digital trail of what you're doing. Now, we can't see exactly what you're doing, but we can definitely tell what type of compute you're running based on a number of factors. So yeah, the security is super, super important to me. That's one of my fundamental beliefs, is that this type of technology needs the right level of security, because like you said, it could be very, very dangerous if somebody gets it and uses it for the wrong reasons.
Thank you for your answers.
Yeah.
It's nice from you. I had some people of my community. I told them that I was gonna meet you, and I asked them if they had some questions. So
Sure.
thank you. When can we hope a new listing to increase the coin liquidity?
Yeah. So listings, obviously, we've been working tirelessly to get some listings sorted out. We have some currently in the pipeline. The problem is that once we give them the technical guides of what they need to integrate for us, it's really down to the exchanges how long that takes. Like Gate.io, we knew about 3-4 months before they pulled the trigger and started, announcing it. It's a little bit frustrating at times, believe me. It's a big frustration. We would love to do what we said we're doing, which is bring on a tier 1. That's what we're working towards. But those kind of deals take a bit of time to get over the line. I've had a bit of a crash course personally with how I'm dealing with exchanges and such. It's not something that I've ever done before, so I'm getting a little bit more of a behind the scenes, to say the least, really. And we want at least 1. We would love 2. That would be ideal. In an ideal world, we want 2 tier 1s to go with the like 2 tier 2s that we've got in sort of, Gate.io and MEXC. Although Gate.io probably is somewhere in the border of between a tier 1 and 2 with the volume that they push through. So, I mean, we're looking, the first protocol for us is opening up the American market. That's got to be important for us, because right now there is no exchange for the American market. There are a few ways around that, but realistically, America is locked out at the moment because there's no exchange for it. So the plan is to work and try and tirelessly get a tier 1 that's available in America, and then obviously work from there. So, tier 1 being like a Binance, a Coinbase, a Kraken, a Qcoin, that kind of level of exchange is what we're working towards right now.
Yeah, that's a bit a shame, because when you see some shit coins which are already listed on big platforms and
Yeah.
a big project like yours.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest frustration, right? Like I've trying to get my head around how these, you get new coins pop out every other day and suddenly they're all on the big exchanges, and we never quite understand why. But I think it comes down to also integration. So a lot of them just flip up an EVM. Well, if you've integrated with one EVM, you can integrate with any EVM at that point. So it makes it very simple for them. Dynex is a little unique in the way that obviously now it used to be a privacy network. Now it's not. So that comes with its own set of challenges in tying it all into the system, because they can't just go and take another kryptonite system that they might be offering and adapt it for Dynex, because half of it won't work because of the deprivatization. And that's one of those other things. Like, a lot of people ask me why we deprivatized the network. That comes because we're a European company, and unfortunately Mika is about to, ruin every privacy coin out there for what it's got planned. So we took the appropriate steps, put it out in the community and said, look, this is what is going to happen with Mika. These are the choices we've got. What do you want to do? And the community voted for unlocking the privacy part of the chain. So with all of that, it's just a lot of backwards and forwards with exchanges to try and, explain what we've changed, how it works, what they need to do to be able to support us for their nodes and such. And yeah, it's just a bit backwards and forwards with the exchanges at the moment.
May I interrupt, please?
Sure.
Yeah. In your video, you were talking about the privacy of the blockchain. May Y3TI explain us more about that and why it changed from a privacy blockchain to the public blockchain?
Sure. I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's a valid question, right? So in Europe, obviously, there is a new crypto asset regulation coming called, its shortened version is MiCA, M-I-C-A. And what that does is it basically stops in its tracks privacy tokens. They want clear chains that governments and entities are able to scan the blockchain and prove who they belong to. Obviously, we don't know who they belong to, just the same as the next person, but it will give the government agencies the ability to go scan the blockchain. There's a lot more to it, but fundamentally that was the biggest one that would have caused us issues. Is if we were a privacy chain, we wouldn't have been able to be listed on anything in Europe, and that would have been that would have been worse than us waiting for a tier one exchange, to be quite honest. Like, if we'd have lost half of our exchanges because we decided to say no, we're going to stick our feet in the ground and say no, it could have blown up in our faces, and we would have had nowhere to basically trade off Dynex to whatever coin you want. It would have been a big problem that we didn't want. It would have defocused the team, because half the team would have had to be dealing with trying to get listings or sort out all the code to get us turn off the privacy factor, right at the last moment and so forth. But both myself, Sumi, and the team decided unilaterally pretty much that if we took the step before they force it, then we're already one step ahead. We're all compliant across all of our exchanges and all compliant in Europe. So I think it was the logical step, but it was fundamentally a community choice. We gave out the community choices. If the community had said no, stay private, we would have gone down that path, and we would have worked around the problems. But the community was okay with deprivatizing, as long as obviously that wouldn't impact any privacy on the proof of use or work side. And it doesn't, because the marketplace is a separate entity from the blockchain. We're able to, lock down that privacy aspect quite nicely.
Okay. Yeah, that's totally understandable.
David, I have another question. David, do you know who Sumitomo is?
Not at all.
Y3TI, maybe you can explain it, because you were talking about Sumi.
I mean, I said the name. I suppose it only makes sense that I.
Yeah, you are not gonna show.
I cover this question now rather than later, right? So I get this all the time. Who is Sumi? So Sumi is an Austrian businessman, right? First and foremost, he's been around a long time, and built up quite a substantial collection of people he knows, contacts, and so forth. And from his last job to this job, he realized that there was a potential to do high level compute, shall we say, but in a completely new and different field, in neuromorphic computing at that point. So Sumi, the best way to describe it is that they bought at the beginning, right before they even had a blockchain, they bought a ton of FPGAs. Actually, I've got one here if you want to see it.
Yeah.
So this here is one of the original Dynex development units. This is what they built on before they had the blockchain. So this is 12 FPGA Cyclone Vs. These can obviously emulate the Dynex chip and how the POUW side of it works. Problem is, what they quickly found is that these 12, albeit very, very efficient and very good, it wasn't going to cut the needs, right? The needs of the overall network was going to be massive, right? So with that, they were like, well, we've got two choices. They could potentially keep buying up FPGAs, right, at an expensive cost, because FPGAs tend never to drop in price. They only ever seem to go up. And it would have been millions and millions and millions of dollars, right? We would have been talking mega money, because effectively they would have been building their own supercomputer at that point, right? A physical like supercomputer that they would be running, a bit like D-Wave or IBM supercomputers. It'd have been effectively like that. What they quickly found out, that just wasn't going to cut it for the speed, efficiency, for the, you know, the compute. They needed to go bigger, much bigger. And so they started investigating blockchain and how they could integrate a synthetic chip on existing hardware. And that's where I think Dynex is sort of, everyone calls it the secret sauce, right? It's not really secret sauce, but from a perspective of outside, that's what it looks like, right? That Dynex has found some magical, you know, bullet that works on existing equipment. Well, it's a little different than that, but basically they simulate the same type of chip in, like, on the software side, right? We generate a chip, or well, many chips on a GPU, right? And each one of those chips can act independently, like a CPU at that point. So a GPU, let's take, for argument's sake, a 3070, because that's probably what most people use. That generates about 400 chips. Those 400 chips can be used on 400 different jobs. So suddenly one graphics card can do 400 jobs. You probably wouldn't want to do 400 jobs on a single graphics card, but realistically you could. And that neuromorphic chip is what Sumi and his team practically decided that that's what they wanted to go down the path. And it's really Sumi's vision in that regard, right? To take what would be the part that degrades and is the bit that needs to be super chilled and everything like that and physical, and make it synthetic. So Sumi, from then, they really decided that that was the only path. They fired up the blockchain and everything. But now, obviously, Sumi has appointed an entire leadership team. Sumi wants to go do his crazy scientist stuff, right? He wants his lab. He wants, you know, white coat and be stuck in there for hours. Like, that's all he wants to play with. He wants to be the one that drives the technology, right? That's why he appointed a leadership team to take care of the other bits, right? Because one man can't run an entire company like this. It's impractical. So having the leadership team now means that, you know, there is a person that deals with the development side. There's a person that deals with the ecosystem. There's a person that deals with, you know, media relations and business dealings. That's a new guy that's just been brought on, Charles. He's a wonderful guy, comes with 20 plus years of experience in that field. So, you know, that's what Sumi's in the process of doing right now, is literally building out the team that can actually, you know, manage and maintain this system. But he himself, he just wants to be a private man. He enjoys just working on new technologies. You know, for him, that's what drives his passion. So I get why some people would want him to be out in the world. I also appreciate that, you know, if you look at it from a business angle, right? In business, you don't necessarily know every person that works for a company. Right. I appreciate that. I own my own business over in the UK. And I appreciate that not everyone has to know who runs the business side of it. I get that from the crypto side. I appreciate also the other side of the equation, though, that, you know, people want to know. And will he eventually want to open up a little bit more? I guess only time will tell on that. When we all joined, right, and we were starting to form the team, like the leadership team, everyone was asked, do they want to be known, right? It's a very much a choice thing. I'm not bothered. I've been on, you know, I've been here, there and everywhere. And if I'm on TV, I'm not going to be one to shy away from my name being out there, right? But a lot of people are not in that situation. So it's very much a choice. I would love Sumi to open up a bit down the road. I've talked to him many times about this. I think it'd be great that people get to know him, but it's, you know, it's got to be a case of when he feels comfortable.
Yes, yes. But this sort of decision can make a shadow on the project. It
Oh, believe you me, we understand that. Like we've talked about this. Like Damien, when he came over to visit me, like Damien will tell you, like I talk to Sumi pretty much every day. We bounce ideas backwards and forwards and go through things. And the first thing first, we needed to get the leadership team in place. We needed to get those people out in the world and known, so that at least, you know, customers could potentially have somebody to look up to see if they've got the, you know, the accreditation, the knowledge and the understanding to actually run what this business is. So, you know, I appreciate that. And, you know, you are right. It can and has at times, right? We're open and honest about this. Like it has thrown some shadows over us over times, right? The fact that there's more of a team now that's known, obviously that's helped a little bit. It's a good stepping stone, right? But it all comes down to personal preference at that point. And if somebody doesn't feel comfortable, I completely understand that. Like it's got to be done on a per person basis. So, but you are right. It can throw a shadow over a project for sure, 100%. And that's why one of the other reasons why I'm happy to do these sort of calls, because the more we talk, the more people can understand and the more they get an understanding of our decision making, so to speak.
In fact, what we wanted to highlight concerning Sumi, the CEO of the Dynex project, is the dangerousness about showing your face when you are developing a so much big project. I guess you know that the crypto world is quite dangerous because of billions and billions of dollars involved. I give you a simple example. It was the same than if in Gotham City everybody knows Batman's identity. Imagine how it could be dangerous for Bruce Wayne for his loved ones would face. It's totally the same with Sumi, just like Satoshi Nakamoto. This is the reason why anonymity. Yeah, thank you for clarifying this, because yeah, that was one of the negative points that I put on my video, and thanks for explaining.
I actually watched your video. I actually thought your deep dive into Dynex was actually very good. I appreciate the level of work that went into that, because the way you did all your research, that probably took a fair number of hours to do.
Oh yeah.
So no, seriously, you did a good job.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. And many hours. Many hours.
Yeah, I can imagine.
About that, what can be your strategy about to make the project understood easier? What can you do in the next month, next years, especially for the bull run, which is already arrived?
Yeah, I mean, we're right at the early point of the bull run, right? So that's good for everyone. It's probably not so good for the projects, because now everyone's getting that pressure, right? It's not just us, it's everyone in the crypto industry is getting that level of pressure, because everyone wants to, you know, make some money, right? Fine, I've got no problem with that. Everyone's entitled to make money, right? I'll be the first to tell you, if there's money to be made, like, we're all going to do it, right? That's just part and parcel of crypto. But for me, like, one of the biggest things for us is we're so new in technology perspective, right? We're not a new blockchain now, been around like nearly 18 months, but the technology is so new that it's very hard for people to grasp, right? You turn around and say the word neuromorphic, right? And people just look at you blank faced. Right? Damien and I had this talk, right? We were down having breakfast one morning and we were talking about neuromorphic networks, and the guy next to us just looked completely baffled by what we were talking about, like completely didn't understand a word we were saying. We might have well been talking a different language at that point. And so you are right. Communication, education, all of that kind of thing is something that I've brought up already. Like the whole team agrees that education of the system itself is super important, right? We're not just trying to make this for people that have a high level coded understanding. We want to make this available to everyone. When I say everyone, I mean everyone. I've got So this is the bit that blows people's mind, right? I've got a 10-year-old apprentice, right? He's currently learning how to code on Dynex. Okay. Because if I teach him that young, right, his brain's a big sponge, right? It's just going to take it all in. For the rest of the people, like myself, you know, they're a bit older now, it takes a little time for the brain to start working and processing, you know. For us, it takes a little bit more time. I've had a bit of a crash course, right? Last 6 months, I've basically gone non-stop with it. So I would say that education is the biggest one. And yes, we are planning on, you know, attending shows, doing tutorials. We're actually working on a tutorial system right now that will allow customers to have some basic tutorials and walk them through step by step, basically. So yeah, education is important to us.
I had a question from Alex. He was talking about the HIP. I saw it on Twitter that you put in place one on 29th of February 2024, with 10% of all payment are given back to the people who participate.
Yep.
Why isn't it available for now? I did try to go on it, and it was
so the Dynex Holders Incentive Program now has a full complete platform built. It was released yesterday, and you can go to that. It's dhip.dynexcoin.org, and that will basically load up the complete Holders Incentive Program area. Now it's a lot more straightforward because all the wallets have now been updated. There was a brand new GUI wallet out yesterday. Although people thought it was an April Fool that we were doing it. No, it wasn't. It was actually legitimate. We've released a new wallet. It's had a massive overhaul, makes a lot of difference. And that comes with all the holders incentive for proof of reserve and all of your proof of your holdings. You then take that proof of holdings, put it in the DHIP system. And every month, the idea is that it used to be 70-30 split between what Dynex would earn and what the miners would get. So 30% to Dynex, and then 70% to the miners. Now it's only 20% to Dynex, and the other 10% we split amongst all the holders. It's not staking because you don't actually have to lock your funds. You're free to move your funds at any point. What that proof of reserve file does is it allows our scanning tool to validate how much you've got in your account. Now, if you move any money or you lower your balance or you increase your balance, you need to regenerate the file. But fundamentally, that's the only bit you need to do. And now with the new wallets all updated, it's literally click a few buttons, grab your file, throw that into the portal, and every month you get a proportional part of that 10% for the holders. So it's something new. It's our way of giving back to the community who have stuck with us, right? There's been quite a few people that have bought and just held, or there's also people that have obviously mined and then held onto their Dynex. So we wanted to give something back. That was the whole idea of it.
Thank you. Yeah, that's quite nice for miners and for early investors. That's
exactly.
What are the next partnership are you gonna sign? If you can talk about, of course.
Oh, the next partnership. Okay, that's always the fun one, right? Because we got like maybe 5 or 6 different companies we're talking to at the moment. We've got some evaluating Dynex already. But the evaluations are a weird one, right? Because people think, oh, well, that company's going to start using Dynex. Not necessarily. An evaluation is exactly that. They're evaluating whether or not they can use Dynex to their advantage. And we've got a few currently evaluating it. We've got an automotive company that's due to start evaluating Dynex very soon. Can't say their name because of obviously contracts and rules and such. But needless to say, once that comes through, and I'm pretty sure that once they see the potential of it, they'll sign on for it. We'll be able to finally announce who they are. And I would say that they're not a small company. They're not a small company. And that would be great, right? Because big customers, those blue chip style customers, are what's going to drive the ecosystem. With more Dynex going through that, the more that goes through the marketplace, the more that goes back to the miners, and obviously the incentive program and holders program like that. The more we get in now, that's what we're working on, is to try and get those customers through the door. We've got the new fiat on-ramp being worked on right now, so big companies can just pay in fiat. It'll deal with the rest itself behind the scenes, convert it to Dynex, and then distribute it again over the network. So, I mean, realistically, big players in the industry is who we're targeting. I've got probably 3 weeks worth of meetings booked up now. Just different companies that are interested in using us, that want a bit more information, a bit like yourself, who just have questions that they don't have the answers to. So that's what I'm there for, to go and have a chat with them, to sit down, to make the understanding, and, you know, hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get some big customers over the line, and then it'll be really, really moving along after that. But the moment we get a big customer, more pressure on our shoulders. Like, we already got a lot of pressure from the crypto side, and now we're going to get a load of pressure from the enterprise side. So, I mean, we're going to have to be fully prepared for that.
Of course, I guess that's a hard job. Yes. One of my, I guess it will be my last question, because we still have 3 and 55 seconds.
Yep.
What is your favorite technology in the Dynex project?
Ooh, so a bit of a pet project for me has been the wind tunnel stuff, right? My current company that I have over here does large scale digital signage for the automotive industry. So I've already had that connection with the automotive industry for a long time, 12 years now. So when I gave the guys the idea of, hey, why don't we just build a virtual wind tunnel on Dynex and do CFD, right? CFD is one of the most insane computational pieces that we run, right? And the crazy bit is I was actually doing some benchmarking tools, right? 2 days ago, I ran Dynex with 1,000 chips against 1,000 chips on an H100 $40,000 GPU. And it was 5 times faster on Dynex. Like, that's the bit that's crazy. And it costs so little to run it on Dynex, but yet renting or buying a GPU of that kind of stature comes with a monster like outlay for it. So I think really for us, like, the biggest technology really for us in general, it's the overall network, right? But for me personally, that wind tunnel is amazing. Like, honestly, when we showed it off to a few automotive people, like, we really got their attention. And that's what we wanted, right? That's what disruptive technology is all about, disrupting the normal and putting ourselves in the middle of it.
Yeah, that's true. That this technology is amazing.
What about the IA auditor?
Oh, I knew you was going to bring it up. So yes,
Oh yeah,
that's my pet.
I am quiet, but you know, I'm thinking.
The AI auditor has been a bit of a big project, right? We can audit any form of code now. So basically, we built it so that it runs on Dynex. We were very fortunate to obviously be the first to run on Dynex. So we had the benefit of being able to get our ducks in a row, so to speak, very quickly. But our AI auditor is still a work in progress at the moment. And once obviously it's ready to show the world, I would love to maybe come back and give you a full like tutorial on it, show you it. If we get the two-way comms working, I might just bring the AI auditor into the chat, and you can actually have a chat with the AI auditor yourself. That kind of level of it's fantastic. But I think that's an entire separate hour-long conversation, to be fair. So
day long.
We can book that in for another time. Absolutely.
Yeah, why not? Why not? It will be all for today, because Zoom is gonna cut
Yeah.
Thank you, Clifford, for being
No,
there.
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Damien, for
It
presenting
was my pleasure.
Clifford for me. That was a very nice conversation. And
Yeah, we are
that
very happy to have it,
And
even
like I
if
say,
I've been a bit quiet.